recognize Ranking Member Castro for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman. That's happening in Donald Trump's America right now, too. You know, on these kinds of hearings, one of the disadvantages that we have here when you're not in the country that we're discussing is that we're not on the ground. We're not in the middle of the action, so to speak. And so we rely on witnesses and experts and others to come and tell us, based on their expertise, what's going on. And it's hard sometimes to sort out what's fact and fiction or exaggeration or hyperbole, you know, and you probably can never be 100% certain of anything that you hear. But I wanted to start with you, Ambassador Trujillo, because you did mention conflicts of interest with the Attorney General and so forth. And I want to commend you for your service as Ambassador, U.S. Ambassador to the OAS. But also want to ask you about conflicts of interest that you have sitting here today. You are a registered foreign agent, is that correct?
That is correct, but not in Honduras.
You represent the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Guyana, Japan, and Bosnia, is that correct?
And Kenya as well.
And Kenya. You also have, you and your firm have significant corporate clients in Honduras who are actively working against the sitting government, is that correct?
That's not correct.
You have clients in Honduras.
I do have clients in Honduras.
You represent Prospera Honduras?
I do no longer represent Prospera Honduras.
Does your firm still represent Prospera Honduras?
We do not represent Prospera Honduras.
When did you represent them? For what period of time?
Prior to the Trump administration, probably through, it was one of my partners in my firm, probably through the first quarter of this year.
You also represent 2 financial institutions in Honduras, you or your firm?
They're all over Central America, yes.
And so I want to ask you, did you discuss your upcoming testimony with any of your clients before this hearing?
I have not.
Did you get advice?
Ranking Member, I'm sorry I'm interrupting. I think we're here for just one purpose, to assure that November 30th are clean and fair elections in Honduras. Ambassador Trujillo may have many clients in Honduras, but that does not mean that he does not want the best outcome on November 30th. So I would think we should just concentrate on finding out what's really happening right now and how we can preserve the integrity of those elections.
Oh, Chairwoman, I've never interrupted your time, and you've never interrupted my time. And these are fair questions about a witness, especially when the witness talked about conflicts of interest of others in Honduras. I think it's fair to consider whether there's conflicts of interest being presented to us here today. And so that's why I asked him about the clients that he represented, including Prospera, which was very controversial in Honduras, which was fighting with the government there, involved in litigation and later arbitration. I think that's a significant perspective, and obviously one that you've chosen to discuss this, but I think that folks need to know that. I think that's important.
Well, if you're insinuating, just to be clear, Ranking
Sure.
Member, if you're insinuating that my testimony here is tainted, because 9 months ago I represented, and I didn't even personally represent it, my firm represented Honduras Prospera, which is another asset, American asset, by the way, that was sequestered and taken away by this government and is actually being actively supported not only by the Biden State Department, but also by the Trump one. If you're insinuating that that somehow taints my testimony, it's factually inaccurate.
No, Ambassador, I commended you for your service as Ambassador to OAS. I'm not saying that your testimony is tainted, but I want there to be a full understanding about your perspective as a witness. It's very rare that we have a registered foreign agent and a registered lobbyist sit in that chair where you're sitting. That almost never happens. So when it does, I think it's important to discuss that. But I have a question for Mr. Roig really quickly. I want to ask you, actually, Mr. Roig or Ms. Ulmer, both of you have emphasized the importance of independent electoral institutions. Given the deadlock inside the National Electoral Council and the political pressure facing the Tribunal for Electoral Justice, what are the most urgent steps Honduras must take in the next 10 days to restore minimum public confidence in these institutions? There's 10 days left. What has to happen?
Thank you. The independence of the Honduran electoral institutions are vital. And that is not only of the National Electoral Council, but it's also the Electoral Justice Tribunal. They both have important results one who administers the results, the other who adjudicates any challenges. But it's critical that these institutions are able to fulfill their mandates and ensure credible and transparent elections. I commend the CNE for accrediting, I think, a record number of domestic observers. The Hondurans are doing their part. They have come together, and thousands of volunteer observers have come together to provide oversight and to protect the will of the people. I also commend the private sector for stepping in and providing funding for these observation efforts.
Mr. Roig, if I could just get a quick answer there.
Yeah, in terms of ranking member, in terms of what more we can be doing, having worked at the State Department, I would say at this stage it's really important that the State Department be much more vocal between now and November 30th. You know, the silence has been deafening, and so to the extent, I know you tried to get a witness here today, but I think that you know, the State Department has a critical role to play in demonstrating that it is watching what's happening and showing vigilance over this process. And so I would hope that they would take that to heart in the lead up to the election.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranking Member.